sharpened up the blade for about a half a day, and we think we got it really sharp. It's time to test it out. I take a normal piece of copier paper, fold it in half here. The blade is off. Be very careful doing this. This blade should be razor sharp. We're going to take this, holding it safely here, I'm going to pass the blade through about this part of the paper. You can see the blade cut that open pretty good. That's how sharp the blade should be, razor sharp. If it's not sharp enough to cut the paper like that, then you need to sharpen some more. If it is sharp enough, you're ready to cut. Okay, we're going to go over the buttons on the machine, and this is taken straight off of your manual here that shows the different things. Knife on, we already went over. Knife on, knife off. The grinder is for sharpening the blade. The extractor is the dust extractor, taking those bits off. Always turn the extractor on first, then turn the grinder on. That way you'll make sure that the dust collector is on while you're sharpening. Same thing when you turn the grinder off. Turn the grinder off, then turn the extractor off. Extractor speed is just the speed of the dust collector. Most people leave around 5. You can turn it higher if you like. It does get loud. Knife auto, off and on. That's for indexing the blade forward. We're going to get to that later, but normal operation, you're going to leave that off. The knife reset is only used once on every knife blade change. It'll be every month, 3 months, 6 months, depending on what you're cutting. So you don't use that very often. The knife sensor, we want to have it on. That's going to make sure that if the knife comes off of the wheels, or if the knife gets too small, this light up here is going to come on, and the whole machine is going to shut down. The door sensor is the same way. We turn the door sensor on, and if anybody opens a door, it's going to again turn this light on, shut down the machine. These 3 control the rollers. Roller clockwise on, which is this one. That's normal operation. That's controlled by its own speed variable here too. And you can go from very slow, maybe for some really difficult material, up to 5 for some medium materials, and even higher for some easy materials. Roller off, simply going to set it back off. Now, occasionally, somebody might get something jammed in there, they accidentally put something too thick in there. And in that case, the rollers are going to shut down, and you're going to need to turn the rollers off, and then use this roller counterclockwise, which will inch it backwards and back the foam back up to you. That's only used if you get something jammed into the machine. And the E-stop, of course, we already went over. That shuts everything off. That enables you to operate again. Okay, one last thing before we start cutting is another safety note. The blade is exceptionally sharp. It's razor sharp. You need to exercise extreme caution at all times using the machine. One new feature is this safety guard here. This is just an extra barrier to give you a visual barrier and a physical barrier to protect the operator's hands. It has 2 positions. This is the up position. It's about 5 1/4 inches. You can pass through a 4-inch nominal gun, or you can move it to the lower position. It's about 3 1/4 inches. We're going to cut some thinner stuff, so I'm going to leave it here. You can also remove the bar completely out for maintenance. Okay, we are ready to cut. Now I've got a piece of foam here. It's a piece of 6-pound EVA. And first thing we're going to do is accurately measure the side of the bun. I'm going to line it up to the 10, and I've got a 21 millimeters total thickness. So now I'm going to want to cut that. I'm going to just cut that in half for an example. So all of these machines work on compression. So we're going to squeeze it a little bit to push it through the knife blade. So when I split that in half, I'm going to have 10 1/2 and 10 1/2 millimeters. And I'm squeezing a little bit more on the top and a little bit more on the bottom. And I'm going to squeeze in an extra millimeter on the top. It does tend to cut a little bit thick on the top on materials that compress. You're going to want to make a chart and keep your own records of all your own foams, what you're cutting. You should be able to repeat it very easily with the little chart. So that's it. I'm going to turn the knife on. I'm going to turn the rollers on. We could set it to speed. This is about a 6-pound EVA. I'm going to cut it about a 2.5. Some materials you can cut very fast. Sometimes you're going to want to cut slower. And that's it. So I'm just going to lift it up, put it in. You can put it straight through, or you can angle it a little bit. It's a difficult material to cut. I slowed that down so I can walk around. Here's our two pieces. And we found it's best to measure the center of the side of this side and the center of that side. If you measure these two places and they're correct, then the whole sheet will be correct. I'm going to measure these. Line it up on the 10. I get 10 millimeters there. They get 10 millimeters there. So we have a perfect split. If that was off a little bit, we could just make an adjustment on the settings there. Move it a 0.5 millimeter up, move it a 0.5 millimeter down. Every different kind of foam is different, and you will have to make slight adjustments, initial adjustments, get your settings, and then long term you'll need to check it. You could get an unusually firm or soft load of foam, you'll need to make adjustments to that. The operator is definitely a skill position and should be treated as such. Okay, now we're going to talk about cutting thin sheets. I'm taking this piece that I just cut, which is exactly 10 millimeters. I'm going to try to take just a thin cut off the top. To do that, I'm going to come up here and set it to 1 millimeter thickness. I'm at 2 now. I'm at automatic, so I'm going to just push down. That would take me down to 1 millimeter. Now in this case, I got 1 millimeter and 9 millimeters, so I'm not squeezing it at all. And I'm doing that on purpose to show you what happens if you don't have enough compression. So we're going to turn on the knife, turn on the rollers. We're going to try to feed this thing through here. And want to pull over to the side. That's, you don't have enough compression, so the knife blade is actually going to pull it over. In this case, you need to make the adjustment. We're going to squeeze it a little bit more so that it's got enough compression. So I've got my step thickness at 1. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze it up 1 millimeter. And then try to cut it again. And now it has enough compression that's going to go through. You always want the smallest amount of compression that you can do that's going to push it through. If you use a light compression, it'll be better for the motor, the blade, you're going to get a more accurate cut. Here's our heat. Go ahead and use this for the thin stuff. And getting a reading of 2 millimeters, 1.99 on that side. And 2.1, around 2.14 on that side. So it's about 80 thousandths on one side and about 84 thousandths on the other. So we would definitely count that in tolerance. You can cut it even thinner if you need to, but cutting 2 millimeters is very easy to do. You get a very nice sheet. So you can use this to clean up a bun, take the dirty skin off of there, or just tighten up the tolerance on some parts that are already cut. Okay, it's kind of hard to describe all the different kinds of foam that you're going to cut if you don't know what you're going to cut. But you're going to follow the same general rules. You want to compress it as just as slightly as possible, just enough to be able to get it through. If you press too much, you're going to put a lot of stress on the motors, as I said. You're also going to start getting some inaccuracies in your cutting. So you want to just lightly compress it, push it through the blade. In this case, we would write these settings down for later. You'd save them, and you'd make your own notebook, or maybe an old laptop works pretty good out here just as a database. So you're going to save that for each type of material and each type of thickness that you're cutting. You want to make adjustments each time in case you get unusually firm or soft material, but in general, on a reorder, you should be able to pull up your settings, bring up your values here, and run it through. Make maybe one slight adjustment and then run 100 pieces or whatever your order is. In the case of crowned buns, where it's thicker in the middle than it is on the side, that's going to be a problem for any kind of machine that runs on compression. The best way we come up with in that case, where it is crowned in the middle, is you're going to want to set it very thin, like 1 millimeter on top and 100 on the bottom, whatever your setting is. You're going to want to run it through, just kissing off the top, then bring it around, flip it over, kiss off the bottom, and then repeat it twice again. And with 4 passes, you should be able to get even a crown bun flat. If you can get a supplier that will supply you flat buns, that's even better. Alright, I think that's about it. Anything else, definitely look at the manual, and you will get 1 day of training with this machine. And I think we'll move on to maintenance now.